Let's talk about energy balance. You might have heard the acronym CECO, calories in versus calories out. And so what it's saying is how much energy are we taking in versus how much energy are we expending? And so this has come to be a really controversial topic in nutrition and fitness, not because it isn't true, but because it's very nuanced and it sometimes carries the baggage of shame, right? And so for people that are trying to lose weight, it's am I expending more energy than I'm taking in, or am I taking in more energy than I'm expending? And that's gonna change our body mass. The problem is that sometimes shame gets thrown on top of this, right? So the idea that, well, if you're not losing weight, you must be lazy, or there must be something wrong with you, or any other number of kind of shame-based things can surround this. And so the problem is that the equation in and of itself is very simple, but it's not always so easy and so straightforward. So again, just because something's simple doesn't mean that it's easy. And so there's a bunch of factors that can change how much that we actually get in and how much that we expend. And so on the taking in part, appetite is a big one, right? Am I actually hungry? And that can be affected by so many different things. How the food tastes, what time of day it is, have I exercised or not, what's happening psychologically, right? Am I highly stressed, or do I tend to eat when there's any strong emotion aroused? What are some of the factors surrounding that? Next is what I actually am taking in, right? What is the split of macronutrients, right? Proteins, fats, carbohydrates. What other things are in there, right? Like, is there a lot of salt? Is there a lot of added sugar, right? Are there things that the food's designed to be what we call hyperpalatable, right? It's super, super tasty. It tends to be a blend of fats and salt and sugars. And so what are we taking in? We know that fats and fibers help to slow down digestion, and when we're just having very simple processed carbs, that tends to spike blood glucose, right? And more of that tends to get converted to fat. And so again, it's not that any one food or thing is bad, right? Carbs aren't the devil, fats aren't the devil. It's just what am I taking in, and how many am I taking, or how much am I taking in compared to how much my body actually needs. Another is how many calories am I actually absorbing and utilizing, right? For people with gut issues, they might not absorb as much of what they've eaten, right? It might pass through the digestive system sooner, right? People with irritable bowel syndrome or things like that, where you're actually just not taking up as many of the calories. Other things can be, there's so much we don't know about the gut microbiome, but we do know that depending on the concentration, you might utilize, or you might pull more calories or less calories from the food that you eat. And so that's another thing. And again, stress can affect that too, right? Is it moving through my digestive system a lot more quickly or a lot slower? And last, all those psychological factors, right? What's my level of stress, right? Are there any big difficult things in my life that I'm dealing with? What's the quality of my sleep, right? Sleep can impact those things. Have I exercised that day or not? There's so many different things that can affect what we're taking in. Again, I mentioned before, a lot of times for a lot of people, eating is tied to strong emotions or to environmental cues, right? You gotta clean all the food on your plate, right? That's something that was ground into you from early childhood. You got to finish everything on your plate, or just the environment that you're in, right? It's the holidays, or it's a Super Bowl party, or whatever thing, right? What's the social context, and is that going to make it more likely for you to bring in more? And then other things, right? What kinds of foods do you even have available to you? Is your pantry stocked with a bunch of less healthy, hyperpalatable foods, or is it not? And so all of those things can affect the energy inside of things. And then the energy outside of things, right? am I participating in regular exercise? What types and for how long? What about non-exercise activity? This is actually one of the biggest contributors to energy balance, and it's kind of under-recognized and underappreciated. So it's all of our activity that's not dedicated exercise. And this can account for quite a big swing in daily calories, right? It can be, for most people, anywhere from 200 to 900 calories burned through just non-exercise activity. And so that can make a difference adding body mass versus not. And then just how, what's our basal metabolic rate, right? How much energy are we just burning at rest? And then lastly, what energy do we burn digesting our food? So that's one of the cool things, right? We actually use energy to digest our food. It's called a thermic effect of feeding. And so certain foods cause us to burn more energy. So protein as a whole tends to be higher in that thermic effect of feeding. That means that for every calorie that we take in, a little bit more of that energy is going to be used to actually digest that food. And so all those things on that side influence it. And so it's not just always as simple. There's a host of competing factors and things in our body and then outside of our body in our environment that affect how much food we take in and how much energy we expend. And so diving a little deeper into those areas and figuring out, well, what are maybe some of those different areas that I can slide the dial on in my life to make this work a little bit more effectively for me. So to make sure that I'm getting the fuel that I need to support all of the things that I want to do in my lifestyle and my exercise and to allow my body to have the recovery that it needs. And so again, simple on one end, simple equation, but often a little bit more complex to actually implement. And so if you have any questions about any of those factors or what that looks like for you, please let us know, reach out, and let us help you with that.